Good afternoon, everyone. I'm ABC13 meteorologist Elise Smith. It's 2 o'clock on Sunday, and Beryl continues to approach the Texas coast, and we have some important updates for you with some of the tropical weather alerts that we have. There have been some important updates, some upgrades as well. A couple I want to just nail right off the bat: Brazoria County and Wharton County. You are now under a hurricane warning, not a tropical storm warning. That was new in the 1 o'clock update. We also have now Galveston Island under a hurricane watch, as well as Beryl's track just really is starting to take that shift ever so slightly north and east. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But here is Beryl swirling off the Texas coast. Still a tropical storm with winds of 65 miles per hour, wind gusts up to 75 miles per hour. A consistent minimum pressure as well, around 992 millibars. But I have to say, Beryl is going to be entering some very warm waters. They're already warm in the Gulf, but as it approaches land, again, we've been talking about all summer long that water temperatures along the coast have been in the upper 80s, near 90 degrees. That is going to be like jet fuel for this hurricane. So we have to watch this, for this tropical storm that could intensify into a hurricane before landfall tomorrow morning. So let's get you that latest track of Beryl issued at 1 o'clock. Again, Beryl's still a tropical storm, winds of 65 miles per hour, but on track to make landfall early tomorrow morning as a Category 1 hurricane. And the latest update from the National Hurricane Center continues to have that messaging that Beryl could become a hurricane within the next 5 hours. By 7 o'clock tonight, could have winds at 75 miles per hour, just above that threshold to become a hurricane, and then make landfall early tomorrow morning. Again, looking like it's going to be very close to Palacios in Matagorda County. Matagorda County, you could really be, ground zero for Beryl to make landfall tomorrow morning. And then from there, Houston, Galveston, Southeast Texas could experience tropical storm to hurricane force winds as the system again continues to move a little farther north and east. Thankfully, by Monday night, this system will begin to move into North Texas. And then by Tuesday morning, it'll already be out of Southeast Texas. So this storm is going to be it's going to have a big impact, but it's not going to linger, which is important when we're talking about how much rain this storm could dump. Of course, we'll get the latest on that in just a moment. But you see these computer model are really clustered around Matagorda Bay. Palacios, I think, is going to be very close to where the eye is going to make landfall early tomorrow morning, with those hurricane force winds expected potentially there, and of course across much of the southwestern portion of Southeast Texas. So here are again the latest updates. Wharton County was added, Brazoria County added to that hurricane warning. I know initially it was just the coastal communities for Brazoria County. Now that extends all the way to the northern and eastern tip as well. As for the storm surge watches and warnings, storm surge warnings continue again for our coastal communities. And we actually have an important update on the potential storm surge we could see here in Southeast Texas. So generally, again speaking, the numbers have remained pretty consistent, but I would say these are averages. An average storm surge of about 4 feet in Galveston and Galveston Bay, all the way up to High Island as well. Then you start to get into Brazoria County, Matagorda County, from 5 foot to a 6 foot storm surge into Matagorda County and Matagorda Bay. But you know what? I'm going to go rogue a little bit. I'm going to enter this graphic and zoom in and see if you can bear with me here as I do that, because there are some important things I think you need to know right now. So I'm going to zoom in here. Bear with me. But look at some of these orange colors here. The northern tip of Galveston Bay into Chambers County, the southern tip of Galveston County, not necessarily Galveston Island. There are now indications that we could potentially see up to a 6 foot storm surge there in portions of Galveston. That's not necessarily the general forecast, but in just checking some of the storm surge numbers, we've already seen water levels rise a foot in Galveston Bay this afternoon. I do think some areas could potentially see a storm surge at around 6 feet within that 4 foot forecast area. So again, that's definitely something we're going to be keeping a very close eye on, of course, for our coastal communities, all of our friends along the coast, with those impacts already happening with waters rising. San Luis Pass latest update was about almost a 2 foot storm surge there as of this afternoon, and then conditions are just going to get worse from there tonight into tomorrow morning. Flood watch was also expanded stranded today in case you missed that. Now every single county in southeast Texas under a flood watch tonight through Tuesday morning, where I think besides the wind, the biggest widespread impact is going to be the water from both, of course, the storm surge along the coast, but then also all the water that Beryl is going to bring with it. We easily could see potentially 5 to 10 inches of rainfall from today all the way through Tuesday at this point. And then some of those areas still mainly west of I-45 could see potentially upwards of a foot to 15 inches of rain in spots. Street flooding is going to be a big concern. The streets are already getting pretty pondy, very wet, and then that is only going to continue, especially once we get some of those more heavier downpours tomorrow morning. We've had some today with some of the first bands that have been moving in from Beryl, but tomorrow I really think it's going to be a deluge once we have landfall and some of those showers and thunderstorms that are very intense around the eye of the circulation. Once those move inland, I think those are just going to dump water as well as wind here in southeast Texas. Now, as for the flood threat, again, it is a high flood threat. And we're not just talking about the run-of-the-mill street flooding like what we saw yesterday. This is going to be prolonged street flooding, flash flooding of low-lying areas and flood-prone areas, and of course, coastal flooding as well, potentially already beginning in Galveston at this point in some of our communities along Galveston Island, and then down all the way towards Matagorda Bay as well. So this red area, including Houston, downtown Houston, high risk for flash flooding tomorrow. I think some streets could potentially be inundated with water for hours tomorrow. So again, when we emphasize that today was really your last day, your last morning, last chance to get some of those last minute preparations, those errands done, yes, now is the time. If you have to do any like right now into the early evening, that's okay. But by tomorrow, have plans to, wherever you are, stay put. And I would really stay put. Tomorrow's not going to be a day you want to go out. As for peak winds, again, the hurricane force winds are going to be concentrated right around the center of the storm. And unfortunately, that landfall center is approaching southeast Texas more and more update by update. We're now potentially going to see a landfall in the eastern portion of Matagorda Bay. Again, Palacios, you might be ground zero for landfall tomorrow. I think it is likely going to be in Matagorda Bay, where we see that eye wall move ashore and make landfall. Winds potentially of that hurricane force category 1 approaching category 2 strength in the red area. And you see that also goes into Fort Bend County. Fort Bend County, you're just under a tropical storm warning, but I do think you could see potentially hurricane force gusts, if not hurricane force sustained winds tomorrow as well. Houston and Harris County easily going to welcome some of those tropical storm force winds throughout the day tomorrow. And then beyond that, I think, again, most of southeast Texas is going to be impacted by those winds. Next thing we have to watch for, and this begins really right now, is the tornado threat, the risk of seeing a quick spin up of a tornado when these bands begin to push inland from the Gulf, when we start to see Beryl especially make landfall overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. So this is something where you're going to want to have the ABC13 Weather app on to get those weather alerts, especially if you get a tornado warning for your area. And then also making sure that you stay with us here on the stream and, of course, on air, as we'll be bringing you the latest updates. And speaking of which, I do want to get to 13 alert radar right now, unless we have a different update coming in. No? Okay. Perfect. So 13 alert radar, here you go. You can see that first band that lifted through Houston about 2 hours ago. It's now made it to our northern counties, but you also are starting to see some of those isolated showers as Beryl begins to, we're under its grasp right now with those showers swirling into the region. I was keeping a close eye on this cluster of storms near Lake Livingston right now. I'll point them out. As you do see, there is a severe thunderstorm warning just to the east of Lake Livingston. I was watching this for some of those gusty winds, but then also potentially any rotation. I haven't been too concerned with rotation or organized rotation that would produce a quick tornado, but it's, this is just round one. We're going to see several bands like this lift through over the course of the next, 24 hours. And I'll show you, though, I'll put on the velocity, though, because one thing I do want to point out, let me kind of zoom this around a bit, is that we do have potentially some pretty strong winds along that front of that rain band, that outer band that is lifting in right now. So we're likely seeing some gusty winds that just rolled through Navasota, headed towards College Station, Montgomery, Huntsville. So again, this band now moving out, but I am going to try to estimate some of these wind speeds here. So we're definitely seeing some powerful winds once these bands move ashore, potentially 30, 40, upwards of 50 mile per hour winds that some of these rain bands can produce. And you do see that that is in the northernmost portion of our viewing area at this point, southeast Texas. That is now lifting through Brenham, Columbus. You're likely getting some heavier rainfall, moving up into, of course, now Walker County as well. Livingston, probably quite the light show there, to be honest, with all of the lightning strikes there. I'll zoom in there for you and see if I can get an estimate of how much lightning we're seeing within that particular part of the storm. So that's going to be an area I think I'll be keeping a close eye on. This part of the storm right here around Lake Livingston, moving close to San Jacinto and Polk counties. That lightning might be an indication that we're starting to see potentially that part of the storm strengthen just a bit. Right now, just worried about heavy downpours, gusty winds, and of course lots of lightning. Let's see how many little lightning strikes are right there, right around Livingston. So 165, that's not bad. So definitely something to keep, remind yourself if you are doing any of these late afternoon, evening errands ahead of the storm, just be aware that lightning, heavy rainfall is going to be a big concern. But let me move now into how much rain has potentially fallen, right? This is going to be something we're keeping a close eye on. We had some pretty heavy rainfall in Houston and Harris County, also near Katy, so we can survey some of how much rain has fallen there already. Just starting to really collect. Some areas in Harris County yesterday picked up around almost 3 inches of rain. So we are adding potentially another inch and a half in spots here around Houston. Let's see anything in the inner loop there. Yeah, potentially, 13 alert radar estimating around 1 to 2 inches of rain has already fallen in Houston and Harris County. And I think that would be a pretty good estimate as well for just anyone who's been impacted by those rain bands today. And 13 alert radar, again, you can see that first band lifting through. Let me go ahead and zoom out for you now, though, a little bit, because we do have another band that looks like it's going to start to make landfall at this point and move ashore. That is just south of Lake Charles. That's going to potentially move into our region pretty soon here, but I think it would be more so impacting Louisiana and Beaumont instead of us here in Houston and Galveston in southeast Texas. But you do see some of these isolated showers just to the south of the island right now. Nothing too organized, like an organized band, but within these little showers that are moving ashore, we'll have to keep an eye out for any rotation with them as well. But let's go ahead and try to play through future track for you. I'll pull that up in just a moment as you continue to see some of those showers moving in on 13 alert radar. And remember, we have 13 alert radar on our app online, so you can get the latest scan of that. 13 alert radar doing a decent job on picking up on what's happening right now, I would say, across the region. And then as we go into tonight, again, expecting another heavy rain band, potentially around 5, 6, 7 o'clock. We'll keep some of these isolated showers in nature until then, but another heavier band moving in tonight. And then we have that moving in just ahead of landfall early tomorrow morning. So here's 11 o'clock, continuing to see some of those powerful showers and thunderstorms. And then we get landfall tomorrow, and I'm going to pause this right around 4 o'clock. This will be post landfall, but there is Beryl, potentially a Category 1 hurricane moving ashore early tomorrow morning in southeast Texas. The first time we've seen a hurricane since Hurricane Nicholas, that also was a tropical storm, then quickly became a Category 1 hurricane before landfall. So something we have to keep a close eye on. But I also think Beryl could potentially strengthen to, a high-end Category 1 or even a Category 2 before landfall. Tonight's gonna be a really close night where we have to watch out for that. But you can see widespread heavy rainfall around the center of that storm. And then it looks like the center of that storm of Beryl is now going to impact potentially, the eye could potentially impact Austin County, Waller County. Katy, you could be a close call for potentially seeing the eye wall of Beryl tomorrow, depending with this particular run of future track. Then Beryl continues to lift north. So by tomorrow afternoon, the center of Beryl, again, potentially already out of southeast Texas, moving into College Station. It's going to be a quick mover, but as it moves out, you do see that a lingering band of showers and thunderstorms, some very heavy rainfall there tomorrow morning at about, or tomorrow afternoon and evening, I should say, at about 5 p.m. Still not out of the woods with the potential impacts from Beryl. So I'll throw up the rest of the 10-day forecast now. We have made today an ABC13 Weather Alert day because of the potential for those quick tornadoes we could see as these bands move ashore, but then also the storm surge is already picking up for our coastal communities. Again, a measured surge of about 1 foot in Galveston Bay, closing in on 2 feet near the San Luis Pass. And then as for the rest of the forecast, again, another weather alert day for tomorrow. Beryl will make landfall early tomorrow morning, likely near Matagorda County, somewhere along Matagorda County, Matagorda Bay, potentially Palacios again could be the bullseye of that. Tuesday and Wednesday are still going to be weather aware days, just because we could see some lingering tropical showers as Beryl continues to get pulled farther north away from southeast Texas. And then beyond that, it looks like a pretty seasonal forecast. Nothing else we're keeping our eye on in the tropics as of right now. Of course, Beryl is the main story. We'll have the latest next streaming update for you at 3 o'clock. And then also tune into ABC 13 if you can. We'll have a special newscast at 4 o'clock all about Beryl. World News tonight at 5 o'clock, and then your next local news at 5:30 here on ABC 13.